The Galactic Assembly Hall was the largest structure ever built by any known species. It floated in the empty space between 3 solar systems, a meeting place for over 200 alien civilizations. Millions of beings walked its corridors every day, conducting business that shaped the future of countless worlds. Among them walked the humans, and as always, they walked with their heads down. Ambassador Lisa Warren stood at her assigned position in the assembly chamber. Her position was at the very back, far from the central speaking platform. This was where probationary species stood. Humanity had stood here for 40 years. She watched as High Arbiter took the central platform. The leader was an impressive sight, standing 8 feet tall with a hard shell covering his body and 4 arms that moved in constant, precise motions. His species controlled most of the assembly's bureaucracy. They decided which species could trade freely, which could travel without restriction, and which remained trapped in probationary status. For 40 years, they had decided that humans would remain trapped. The matter of human trade expansion is once again before this assembly, announced. His voice echoed through translation devices worn by every being in the chamber. And once again, the dominants must recommend denial. Lisa felt her hands tighten into fists at her sides. She forced herself to relax. Patience, she reminded herself. Always patience. The humans come from a, continued. Their planet has gravity that would crush most species. Their atmosphere would poison many others. They evolved alongside predators and disasters that would end most civilizations. They are, by their very nature, dangerous. Murmurs of agreement spread through the assembly. Lisa had heard these words so many times that she could recite them from memory. Furthermore, said, humans have repeatedly demonstrated aggressive tendencies. They argue, they compete, they challenge decisions made by their betters. This is not the behavior of a species ready for full membership in galactic society. Lisa stepped forward, permission to respond, High Arbiter. Multiple eyes turned toward her. Even from across the vast chamber, she could see his contempt. The assembly recognizes the human representative. Thank you. Lisa walked toward the center of the chamber. Other species moved away from her as she passed, as if afraid of contamination. High Arbiter, humanity has been a member of this union for 4 decades. In that time, we have followed every regulation. We have paid every fee. We have submitted to every inspection. We have never attacked another species. We have never violated any treaty. And yet you remain what you are, replied. Gravity-crushed savages from a world that should have killed you. The fact that you survived your planet does not make you civilized. It makes you dangerous. The words hit Lisa like a physical blow. She had heard insults before, but never so directly, never in front of the entire assembly. She took a slow breath. Human patience has limits, High Arbiter. I hope the assembly will remember that. Made a sound that his species used for laughter. Is that a threat, human? From a probationary species with a handful of ships and a single colony world, you threaten the Galactic Union. It is not a threat, Lisa said quietly. It is simply a fact. Push any species far enough and they will push back, even humans. She turned and walked back to her position. Behind her, she heard dismissing her words as further proof of human aggression. The assembly voted, as it always did. Humanity was trade expansion, as it always was. Lisa left the chamber and walked through the station's corridors until she reached the human section. Here, the gravity was adjusted to Earth normal, too heavy for most aliens to tolerate comfortably. Here, humans could breathe air that was not filtered and weakened to accommodate sensitive species. Here, Captain Danny Cole was waiting for her. Danny was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had commanded the human diplomatic security vessel Frontier Dawn for 15 years. In that time, he had escorted human diplomats, protected human traders, and watched his species be humiliated again and again. I heard the vote, he said. Same as always, Lisa sat down heavily. 47 times they have us, 47. It is going to be 48 soon, Danny said. His voice was calm, but Lisa could hear the anger underneath. I received reports this morning. 5 human cargo ships have been detained at checkpoints. Their crews are being held in what they call protective custody. Lisa looked up sharply. What conditions? Bad. The holding cells are designed for physiology. Low gravity, thin atmosphere, temperatures near freezing. Our people are strong, but they are suffering. 2 crew members have already needed emergency medical treatment. Did you file a complaint? I filed 12 complaints. They say they are processing them according to standard procedure. Standard procedure takes 6 months. Lisa closed her eyes. 6 months. In 6 months, humans could die in those conditions. They knew that. They simply did not care. There is more, Danny said. I received orders from Earth this morning, direct from the Defense Council. He handed her a data pad. Lisa read the message twice, then a third time. Retrieve our people, she read aloud. By any means necessary. By any means necessary, Danny repeated. For 40 years we have been patient. We have followed their rules. We have accepted their insults. We have waited for them to see us as equals. He stood up. I think we are done waiting. Lisa looked at the man who had spent his career being calm and diplomatic. She saw something new in his eyes. Not anger exactly. Something colder. Something that had been building for a very long time. What are you going to do? She asked. Danny walked to the window. Outside, the Galactic Assembly Station stretched into the distance, a monument to alien civilization, a civilization that had never accepted humanity. Something they will not expect, he said, something they will never forget. He turned back to Lisa. The galaxy thinks they know what humans are. They think we are patient because we are weak. They think we accept their insults because we have no choice. They are wrong. He picked up his communicator. Lieutenant, this is Captain Cole. Begin operation preparations. We move in 72 hours. Through the window, ships of 100 species moved through space, confident in their superiority, secure in their belief that the galaxy belonged to them. They had no idea what was coming. The checkpoint station hung in space like a metal spider, its arms reaching out in all directions. Docking ports lined each arm, most of them holding cargo ships that had been stopped for inspection. At the center of the station sat the command hub, where Commander watched the endless flow of galactic trade. Was proud of his station. He had commanded it for 12 years and had never once failed to enforce regulations. Ships came, ships were inspected, and ships either passed or were detained. It was simple. It was orderly. It was exactly how the galaxy should work. The human cargo ships had been detained for 8 days now. Did not think about them often. They were, after all, dangerous creatures from a dangerous planet. Keeping them locked away was not cruelty. It was protection for everyone else. His communications officer interrupted his thoughts. Commander, a human vessel is approaching. Turn to the display screen. A single ship was moving toward the station at standard approach speed. It was small compared to vessels, compact and efficient in that strange way human ships always were. Identify it, ordered. It is the Frontier Dawn, Commander, a diplomatic security vessel. They are requesting permission to dock. Considered this. One ship, a diplomatic vessel. Clearly the humans wanted to negotiate for the release of their people. That was acceptable. He would listen to their pleas, explain that procedures must be followed, and send them away. Perhaps in 6 months the humans would be released, perhaps longer. Grant them permission to dock at Port 7, he said, and send a security team to meet them. 20 minutes later, Captain Danny Cole walked through the station's corridors. He moved slowly, his steps heavy in the low gravity that they preferred. 2 security guards walked behind him, their weapons visible. Ahead, more guards waited at every intersection. Commander met him in the central command room. that was smaller than High Arbiter but carried himself with the same absolute confidence. "Captain Cole," said, "I understand you wish to discuss the detained human crews." "I do." Danny's voice was calm and even. "I would like to inspect the conditions they are being held in." "That is not possible. Quarantine protocols prohibit contact with detained organisms." "They are not organisms, Commander. They are people, citizens of Earth, and they are being held in conditions that are harmful to their health." Made a dismissive gesture. "Your species is remarkably durable. I am certain they will survive until their processing is complete." "How long will that take?" "Standard procedure requires 6 months for initial review. Depending on findings, additional reviews may be necessary." Danny nodded slowly. He did not argue. He did not raise his voice. He simply reached for his communicator. "If you will not release our people," he said, "then I must inform you of a change in our approach." Felt a small twinge of unease. "What do you mean?" Danny pressed a button on his communicator. "All vessels, this is Captain Cole. Condition Omega, execute." For a long moment, nothing happened. Stared at the human, wondering if this was some sort of bluff. Then his sensor officer shouted in alarm. "Commander, multiple contacts emerging throughout the sector." Spun to face the display screens. His blood went cold. Ships were appearing everywhere. Human ships. They emerged from behind asteroids, from the shadows of moons, from positions that should have been empty space. 10 ships, 20, 30. The count kept climbing. 47 vessels, Commander, his sensor officer reported, voice shaking. "All human military ships. They have been hiding for weeks." Turned back to Danny Cole. The human had not moved. His expression had not changed. But there was something in his eyes now, something that made feel very small despite his greater height. "You planned this," said. "We have been planning this for 3 years, Danny replied. "Every insult, every violation, every time our people were mistreated, we recorded it, we prepared for it. We positioned our ships and waited." "Waited for what?" "For you to give us a reason." Danny stepped closer. "Commander, I am going to give you 1 hour to release every human prisoner on this station. Not 6 months, 1 hour." Tried to recover his confidence. "You cannot threaten a station. The Galactic Union will respond. You will be sanctioned. Your species will be expelled." "Perhaps," Danny said, "but your station will still be destroyed. Your crew will still be dead. And the humans you have been mistreating will be free." He tilted his head. "Is enforcing your procedures worth dying for, Commander?" The command room fell silent. Every present stared at the human, struggling to process what was happening. This was not how the galaxy worked. Lesser species did not threaten greater ones, did not coordinate military operations. Humans did not fight back. And yet 47 ships now surrounded the station. Their weapons were powered. Their message was clear. 1 hour, Danny repeated. "I suggest you use it wisely." He turned and walked back toward his ship, leaving Commander standing in his command room, watching his screens fill with human vessels, and realizing that everything he thought he knew about the galaxy had just changed. 53 minutes later, the detention cells opened. The human crews walked out slowly, blinking in the brighter light of the corridor. They were thin and tired, weakened by days of cold and thin air, but they were alive. Lieutenant was waiting for them with medical teams from the Frontier Dawn. She helped them onto shuttles, gave them blankets and warm food, and told them they were safe now. One of the freed prisoners, an older woman who had captained a cargo ship for 20 years, grabbed arm. "How did you do this?" she asked. "How did you get them to let us go?" Looked out the shuttle window at the station. Then she looked at the human ships surrounding it, silent and powerful and absolutely ready to act. "We stopped asking permission," she said. "We stopped playing their game. We remembered what we are." "And what are we?" Smiled. It was not a gentle smile. And we are done being patient." The shuttles departed. The human fleet remained in position for 6 more hours, a silent reminder that the rules had changed. Then, one by one, the ships, disappearing back into the darkness of space. The galaxy would never be the same. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every species in the Galactic Union knew what had happened at the checkpoint. Within days, the story had grown into something larger than a simple rescue operation. The humans had challenged the humans had won. In the Galactic Assembly Hall, emergency sessions ran without pause. Representatives from dozens of species shouted at each other, trying to understand what this meant, trying to decide what should happen next. At the center of the chaos stood High Arbiter, his shell trembling with rage. "This is an act of war," declared. "The humans have attacked the installation. They have threatened galactic peace. They must be punished." Elder listened from her position in the upper galleries. She was ancient even by the standards of her species, who lived for thousands of years. Her body was small and fragile, covered in silver scales that had faded with age. But her mind was sharp, and she had seen more history than most species could imagine. She had been watching the humans for a long time. She had read their history. She understood things that did not. "If I may speak," said her voice soft but clear. The assembly fell quiet. When an elder spoke, even the listened. "The High Arbiter calls this an act of war," continued. "But I see something different. I see a species that has reached the end of its patience. I see a people who were pushed and pushed until they finally pushed back." Made a sound of contempt. "You defend them, these savages." "I do not defend or condemn. I simply observe." Rose from her seat and moved toward the speaking platform. Despite her age, she walked with steady purpose. "I have studied human history, High Arbiter. I wonder if you have done the same." "I know enough. They are violent by nature." "They are survivors by nature," corrected. "There is a difference. Let me share what I have learned." She activated a display, and images appeared in the air around her. Images from Earth's history. "Humans have a pattern," explained. "They endure, they suffer, they wait, they try to find peaceful solutions, they negotiate, they compromise, they accept conditions that other species would reject." She paused. "But there is always a point where they stop, a line that cannot be crossed, and when that line is crossed, they become something else entirely." The images showed human wars, revolutions, uprisings, moments when ordinary people had stood against powerful forces and refused to surrender. Every time in their history when humans have been pushed too far, they have responded with total commitment, said. They do not fight small wars. They do not accept partial victories. They fight until they win or until they are destroyed. There is no middle ground. "Then we will destroy them," said. "Our fleet is larger. Our technology is superior." Looked at him with something like pity. "High Arbiter, your fleet is designed for species that surrender when threatened. Your tactics assume that your enemies fear death. Humans do not think that way. They have a saying on their world, 'Give me liberty or give me death.' They mean it." A murmur ran through the assembly. Many species found the concept disturbing. Death was something to be avoided. Surrender was logical when facing superior force. The idea that a species would choose destruction over submission was alien to them in the truest sense. But not to the humans. They stood at the back of the chamber, small in number, watching the assembly debate their fate. Ambassador Lisa Warren listened to every word, her face calm and unreadable. When finished speaking, Lisa stepped forward, permission to address the assembly. Looked like he wanted to refuse, but the rules were clear. She had the right to speak. "Thank you, Elder," Lisa began. "You understand us better than most." She turned to face the full assembly. "I am not here to apologize for what Captain Cole did. Our people were being held in conditions that were killing them. We asked for their release. We were refused, so we took them back." "That is piracy," interrupted. "That is terrorism." That is survival, Lisa replied. Something they have never had to learn. Your world is gentle, your gravity is light, your predators are few, you evolved in comfort and peace. We did not. She walked to the center of the chamber, ignoring the guards who moved to intercept her. They stopped when she looked at them. Something in her eyes made them hesitate. For 40 years, humanity tried to earn your respect, Lisa said. We followed your rules, we accepted your insults, we waited for you to see us as equals, we were patient. Her voice hardened. We are done being patient. Then you are choosing war, said. No, you are choosing war. We are choosing to stop pretending that your rules protect us. Lisa looked around the chamber. To every species here who has watched thee abuse their power, who has felt their contempt, who has been told they are lesser beings, we are not asking you to fight with us. We are simply showing you that fighting is possible. Trade Minister of the shifted uncomfortably. His species had profited greatly from human trade. The thought of losing access to human goods and services was troubling. Perhaps, said carefully, a diplomatic solution could still be reached. Spun toward him, you would negotiate with terrorists. I would negotiate with anyone who has 47 warships and the will to use them, replied. That is simply good business. The assembly dissolved into argument again, but something had changed. The fear in the room was no longer just about humans. It was about the possibility that the old order, the comfortable hierarchy where the sat at the top, might be ending. Lisa Warren walked back to the human delegation. Captain Danny Cole was waiting for her. That was quite a speech, he said quietly. It was the truth. Lisa watched the chaos in the chamber. What happens now? They will mobilize their fleet. They cannot let this stand. If they do not respond, they look weak. Can we win against their full fleet? Danny was silent for a moment. I do not know, but we will not lose quietly. Outside the assembly hall, ships were already beginning to move, gathering forces for a strike against humanity. The galaxy held its breath. The war had not officially begun, but everyone knew it was coming. The fleet was the largest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. 300 warships gathered at the border of human space, their weapons charged, their crews confident. Fleet Master the Younger commanded from the bridge of his flagship, eager to prove himself worthy of his father's legacy. Against them stood 60 human ships. The Younger studied the display showing the enemy positions. The humans had arranged their vessels in a defensive formation around a small space station. They were outnumbered 5-1. By any reasonable calculation, this battle was already over. Open communications, the Younger ordered. I will give them one chance to surrender. The human response came from Admiral Chris, commander of Earth's Third Fleet. He was an older man with a weathered face and steady eyes. Admiral, the Younger said, you are hopelessly outmatched. Surrender your vessels and we will treat your crews fairly. Admiral smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Fleet Master, I appreciate the offer, but I think there has been a misunderstanding. He leaned forward. You believe this is a battle you can win with numbers. Let me show you why you are wrong. He cut the communication. The Younger ordered the attack. The fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their commanders confident in their overwhelming advantage. They had fought many battles against many species. The pattern was always the same. Superior numbers won, inferior forces surrendered, and the natural order was maintained. The humans did not follow the pattern. The first human ships accelerated at speeds that should have been impossible. Their engines burned at levels that would have killed any crew, but humans came from Earth, where gravity was heavy and bodies were strong. They had built their ships for conditions that other species could not survive. Vessels tried to match the acceleration and failed. Human ships cut through their formation like knives, firing weapons at point-blank range before spinning away to attack again. They are too fast, an officer reported, panic in his voice. We cannot track them. Their ships are pulling maneuvers that would crush our crews, another added. How are they surviving? The younger had no answer. The battle was only minutes old, and already his formation was falling apart. On the human side, Captain Danny Cole commanded the Frontier Dawn in the center of the fighting. His crew moved with precision, every action trained and practiced. They had prepared for this moment for years. "Lieutenant," Danny called out, "target their command ship. Let us show them what can do." Lieutenant plotted the attack course. The Frontier Dawn dove through a gap in the lines, shrugging off weapons fire that would have crippled lesser vessels. Human ships were built with armor designed for Earth's harsh environment. Weapons, designed for frailer targets, struggled to penetrate. The first wave of the battle lasted 2 hours. When it ended, 53 ships were disabled or destroyed. Human losses: 4 vessels damaged, 1 destroyed. The younger stared at the reports in disbelief. This was impossible. This could not be happening. "Prepare for boarding operations," Admiral announced. "Sergeant Marsh, your teams are clear to engage." Sergeant Tony Marsh led the first wave of human Marines onto a disabled cruiser. The Marines moved through the corridors in heavy combat suits, each step shaking the floor. They were used to carrying their own weight plus 60 pounds of armor and equipment. In the ship's low gravity, they felt like they were floating. The crew tried to resist. They fired their weapons and set up barricades and prepared to defend their ship to the last. Then the humans reached them. Tony Marsh was not a cruel man. He did not enjoy violence, but he was born on a planet that had spent millions of years trying to kill his ancestors. When a soldier swung at him with a blade, Tony caught the blow on his armored forearm and pushed back. The flew across the corridor and crashed into the wall. He did not get up. "Clear the deck," Tony ordered his team. "Disable, do not kill if you can help it. We are not murderers." The Marines swept through the ship in minutes. Soldiers who had never faced hand-to-hand combat found themselves overwhelmed by creatures who seemed impossibly strong, impossibly fast, impossibly durable. When the cruiser was secured, Tony found a group of wounded huddled in a storage room. They looked up at him with terror in their eyes, waiting for the killing to begin. Instead, Tony called for medical teams. Human doctors arrived and began treating wounds with careful, professional skill. One officer, bleeding from a cut on his arm, stared at the human medic working on him. "Why?" he asked. "Why are you helping me?" The medic, a young woman named Dr. Dawson, did not look up from her work. "Because you are wounded and I am a doctor. That is all the reason I need." The officer did not understand. His species would not have shown such mercy to defeated enemies. But the humans did not seem to see him as an enemy anymore. He was simply a patient. Across the battlefield, the same pattern repeated. Humans won with overwhelming force, then immediately began rescue operations. They pulled survivors from destroyed vessels. They treated wounds and offered food and water. They spoke to prisoners with respect, not contempt. The younger was captured when his flagship was disabled. Tony Marsh personally escorted him to a holding cell that had been modified for comfort: proper gravity, proper atmosphere, proper temperature. "I do not understand you," the younger said as the cell door closed. "You could have killed us all. Why did you not?" Tony considered the question. "Because killing you was never the point. Stopping you was the point. There is a difference." He walked away, leaving the commander alone with his confusion. The battle ended 12 hours after it began. The fleet was broken. 173 of their ships were destroyed or captured. The rest fled in disorder, their commanders unable to believe what had happened. Human losses totaled 11 vessels. Every surviving crew member was recovered. Captain Danny Cole broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. His voice was tired but clear. "We did not start this conflict. We asked for nothing but respect and fair treatment. We were answered with contempt and violence, so we defended ourselves." He paused. To every species watching, this is not conquest. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your submission. We want only to be treated as equals. Any species that offers us respect will receive respect in return. Any species that offers us friendship will find friends among humanity. Another pause. But any species that threatens our people, that harms our civilians, that treats us as less than we are, remember what happened here today. Remember that do not surrender. Remember that humans fight until the fight is finished. He ended the transmission. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in silence, trying to understand the new reality they found themselves in. The war was over. The question now was what would come next. 6 months had passed since the battle. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The dominance, once the most powerful political force in the Galactic Union, had collapsed from within. High Arbiter faced criminal charges from his own people, accused of provoking an unwinnable war through arrogance and cruelty. His trial was broadcast across 100 worlds, a reminder of how quickly power could disappear. The Galactic Assembly now looked very different. The back rows, where probationary species had once been forced to stand, were empty. A new seating arrangement placed all species in equal positions around a circular chamber. No one stood above anyone else. And at the center of this new order stood humanity. Ambassador Lisa Warren sat at the council table, now officially recognized as a full member of the Galactic Union. More than that, she had been elected to chair the council itself, the first human ever to hold such a position. It had happened faster than anyone expected. After the war, species that had quietly resented dominance began reaching out to humanity. Trade agreements, diplomatic exchanges increased. Worlds that had once avoided human contact now competed for human attention. But the most significant change was the Earth Accords. The Accords were Lisa's creation, a new framework for how species would treat each other. The old system had been based on hierarchy. Some species were superior, others were inferior, and the superior ones made the rules. The Earth Accords replaced that with something simpler. Every species had equal rights. Every species had equal voice. Disputes would be resolved through negotiation, not domination, and any species that violated the rights of another would face unified response from all signatories. It was revolutionary, it was controversial, and within 3 months over 60 species had signed. Elder watched all of this with quiet satisfaction. She had lived long enough to see empires rise and fall, to watch civilizations grow and wither. But she had never seen anything quite like this. The humans had won their war. That was impressive enough. But what they had done afterward was more impressive still. They had refused to become conquerors. They had refused to replace arrogance with human arrogance. Instead, they had used their victory to build something better. On the day of the first anniversary of the Earth Accords, addressed the Assembly. "I have watched humanity from the moment they joined the Galactic Union," she said. "I studied their history. I learned their patterns. I thought I understood them." She paused, her ancient eyes moving across the assembled species. "I was wrong. I understood what humans could do. I did not understand what humans would choose to do." She gestured toward the human delegation. They had every reason to seek revenge. They had suffered 40 years of contempt. They had been called savages, primitives, dangerous animals. When they finally proved their strength, they could have used it to dominate, to humiliate, to repay insult with insult. Her voice softened. They did not. They won the war and immediately began building peace. They captured their enemies and treated them with dignity. They gained power and used it to create equality. This is not the behavior of savages. This is the behavior of a civilization. The Assembly applauded. Lisa Warren accepted the praise with a small nod, but her mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about how much had been sacrificed to reach this moment, and how much work remained to keep it. Far from the assembly hall, on a small colony world, Captain Danny Cole had finally come home. He sat on the porch of a simple house, watching the sun set over fields of grain. After 3 years of space travel and conflict and diplomacy, he had requested a leave of absence. He was tired in ways that sleep could not fix. The door behind him opened, and Sergeant Tony Marsh stepped out. The former Marine had retired from active duty after the war, but he had not been able to stay away from service entirely. He now taught at a school for the children of human colonists and alien refugees, passing on what he knew to the next generation. "Visitors coming," Tony said. "Young ones, one of them has questions." Danny smiled. "Send them over." A few minutes later, a group of children approached the house. Most were human, but 3 were. The war had displaced many families, and human colonies had accepted refugees without hesitation. One of the children, a young female named, walked forward nervously. She had been born on the same station where Danny had once confronted Commander. Her father had been one of the guards who stood by while humans suffered in detention cells. She knew the history. She knew what humans could have done to her people. "Mr. Cole," she asked, "I have a question." "Of course." "Why did you not destroy us? After the war, I mean. Your people were very angry. Your people were very strong. You could have made us suffer for what we did." She hesitated. "Why did you show mercy?" Danny looked at the young for a long moment. He thought about everything that had happened. The insults, the detention cells, the war, the death. He thought about his own anger, the cold rage that had driven him through the darkest moments. Then he thought about his grandfather, who had survived a terrible war on Earth and spent the rest of his life teaching peace. "Because we had a choice," Danny said finally. "We could be the monsters they called us. We could prove them right about everything they believed about. We could let our anger make us cruel." He shook his head. "Or we could be something better, something that surprised them, something that surprised ourselves." "But how did you choose, after everything that happened?" Danny smiled. "A very wise man once told me that strength is not about what you can do. It is about what you choose not to do. Any creature can destroy. Any creature can take revenge. But choosing mercy when you have the power to be merciless, that is true strength." Considered this. "My father says humans are strange. He says you do not think like other species." "Maybe not. Maybe that is what makes us who we are." Tony Marsh called the children back to class, turned to go, then stopped. "Mr. Cole, I think I am glad you are strange. I think the galaxy needs more strange species." She hurried off to join her classmates. Danny watched her go, human and children walking together, learning together, growing together. The sun continued to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Somewhere in that sky, ships from 100 worlds moved through space, trading and exploring and building connections that would have been impossible a year ago. The galaxy had changed. It would keep changing. There would be new challenges, new conflicts, new moments when everything seemed ready to fall apart. But for now, on this small world, in this quiet moment, Danny Cole allowed himself to hope. Humanity had proven what they could do. Now they would spend the rest of their history proving what they chose to be. And the galaxy, for all its vastness and complexity, had room enough for that hope.